Hey, welcome back, everybody. I'm so excited again to introduce you to another cool person in my life. This is my friend, my dear friend, Kip. And Kip is another intuitive just like me. And we're going to start with Kip was just looping me in on this really cool story. So let's start there.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, hi. I'm Kip Trout. I have a company called Dan DeForey Group, and what we do is energetic assessment and analysis of homes and land and that kind of stuff. And I was just on a really exciting piece of 100-acre land here in where I live, and it had a very big presence of Osage Indians, and the Osage
Ooh.
Indians were treated very, very badly. If you know anything about them. They started in Missouri, then they were forced to Kansas, then they were forced to Oklahoma, and then a lot of them were killed. And this couple had this beautiful piece of land, and they wanted to do like a family retreat like center kind of a thing or like a yoga retreat or just basically to get away from the city kind of a thing. But they were meeting with all kinds of bizarre resistance. And and I had worked on their neighbor's land before, and so I knew that it was probably related to the Osage. And so, sure enough, I went out, and it was just incredibly insightful. The main thing was that they were moving and breaking ground and doing all kinds of stuff, and they hadn't consulted the ancestors that were on the land, and they hadn't asked permission, and they hadn't acknowledged joint stewardship, I guess would be what you would call it. And so we basically cleared the air, and the coolest thing was we got a confirmation that they had heard our request. And actually, she did it. I told her how to do it, but she did it all because at this woman's feet, as we were walking along and she was giving gifts to the spirits, she looks down and there's a handmade Native American scraper right at her feet.
That's wild.
And when I saw it, I was like, oh, they heard you. This is their gift back to you. It was
Oh,
beautiful. This is really
that's
cool.
cool. I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah. And what's so interesting is you and I have these kinds of talks all the time.
Right.
And the other thing is outside of Western culture, I'm overgeneralizing, other cultures, this is normal. This is a normal practice. It was a normal Indigenous American practice to be connected to land and ancestors and spirits. And so for
Yeah.
somebody who's kind of new to this world, can you explain a little bit more about, the connection to the land and the ancestors and what happens when we don't listen or acknowledge people?
Yeah, sure. So I guess you have to kind of go back to the fact that time is a man-made construct. Time doesn't really exist. So everything is going on at once. So those ancestors from the 1800s are still walking that 100-acre area. They're still there in spirit, and they, even though they're in a different dimension, it's almost like different sound octaves. You know how kids can't hear certain pitches that I mean, kids can hear certain pitches that adults can't hear. It's just like that. They're just in another dimension, I guess, of existence. And so what can happen is if you're doing things that threaten them, and in the case of these Osage Indians, they felt threatened because they felt like they were going to be chased off of their land again. And what we needed to do in this instance was assure them that no, we want to be co-stewards with you and we want to work together with you. And so let's share our vision for what we want to bring to the land. And then the funny thing was, these people harvest sap from their maple and walnut trees
Ooh.
and make this incredibly delicious syrup. And so at the end of the thing, she set out a bottle of this syrup
Oh,
for the
that's
spirits as
cool.
an offering back to what the
Yeah.
land had given. Does that
That's
help?
amazing. Yeah, it does. Because I think when it's funny you brought up the ear ringing thing because that's how I explain psychic abilities is it's epigenetics that I think some of us either by being born that way or practicing or both, I don't know if you agree with this, but we open up DNA to like the light spectrum, to the sound spectrum, to all these different genetic mutations. And then we can see spirits, we can hear spirits and feel spirits. Do you agree with that?
Oh, I totally do. And I think that our society conditions us to be distracted from that because you're less powerful when you're distracted from it and you don't realize. But
Right.
once you start to open those neural pathways, and I've done a lot of journeys and open specific neural pathways, and once you have those pathways open, you can see what you probably were seeing before, but didn't realize you were seeing.
Right. I
Yeah,
remember that in my psychic development journey was that a lot of what I was seeing, especially as a medium, it's like my brain had learned to filter it out
yeah.
versus like learning something new. And so, yeah, and it's interesting when I was a therapist, when people were super overwhelmed, most people weren't able to tune in to their intuition. But then as people healed and got better and their frequency went up, most of my clients would say, I think I'm an empath. And then I think that's our default setting, and that we could go into so many conspiracy theories, like you said, about
Oh,
power and control and
yeah.
not having those abilities anymore.
I can't remember what the circumstances were, but I always remember the story I read about these natives and these conqueror or conquistadors were coming to this land, and they had this big, massive, tall sailing ship, and the natives couldn't see the ship. They could only see once the landing crew got into smaller boats and got close to the shore. That's when they could see him because they couldn't conceptualize a ship that big. They had canoes and small boats, so they couldn't even see it until they actually physically took them out onto the ship.
That's interesting.
Isn't that
That
wild?
is so interesting.
Yeah,
Ugh,
I think about that all the time because, like, when I started talking to the fairies and stuff on my land, I could always feel them, but I couldn't see them. And
mhm.
so I started saying, I see you, I know you're there, I feel you, and I see you. And then all of a sudden I could see them.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's what's fun. So I attribute it to my DNA being Irish and Scottish that I can see fairies too. And
Yep.
besides one family member of mine, you're the only other person I know that can see them.
Yeah. You have to, I think you have to have that blood in you.
Yeah. What do you, yeah, because it's an ancestral thing.
Yeah.
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 What do they look like to you?
Do you remember Tinkerbell, the little film, and she had those little golden things all around her? To me, they are little commas. They look like sparkly commas in the ones on my land, but the ones I saw in Costa Rica looked like snowflakes, and they were so abundant. I mean, it was like 85 degrees, and all of a sudden I was surrounded by what looked like snowflakes. It was wild.
So when
Yeah.
I was little, I didn't call them fairies, but I would see when I was little, I could see this. I can't see it now. Everybody had fairies around them, or I call them sparkles, and
Uh,
everybody had different colors. So mine were red and green. And so
ah,
at night when I'd go to sleep, if they didn't come to me, I didn't go to sleep. And then when they did, I would talk to them and tell them, go tell Teresa, I say goodnight. Go tell this friend, I say goodnight. And I'd visualize them going out. Well, I would see them and then visualize them going through the neighborhood to my
yeah,
friends' houses. And then I could sleep.
that's
Now,
cool.
the way I see them now, and I think this is just frequency too, that like for example, a spirit can look so many different ways. And if even as one person, like sometimes to me, they look one way, they look another, but
Right.
even different psychics and mediums can see it differently. And so the ones at my house and the ones in my trees, and actually the ones I generally see are like about this big.
Uh
And
huh.
they're like, it's not neon, but it's like a translucent. It's usually blue or purple or sometimes green. And that's usually what I see.
Like an orb, kind of.
Yeah, like little orbs, and if I focus on them, they hide, but if I just relax my eyes, they'll
Right.
come back. And you remember I cut that one bush and they went away and you had to help me
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
bring
Yeah.
them back? They were so
Yeah.
mad.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then one time when I was really deep into teaching and practicing Reiki and my frequency was, like, super high, it was,
Yeah.
like, August. I remember it was, like, a summer. I was going into Deerberg's, which is our local grocery store if you're not in St. Louis, and there was a mum sitting out and
Mhm.
two, like, fairies like Tinkerbell were in it, like,
Oh,
swirling
wow.
around, and I was like, "I've lost it. It's gone." I know, like, and I've never seen him again, I think, because it freaked me out that much.
Oh,
So and my
wow.
frequency, it doesn't sit when you're channeling Reiki every day, and
Yeah.
that's a whole like, at that level, you have
Yeah.
to be there to see that, so
I was in New York about 4 months ago. I think I told you this story, but my hotel was on this street, and every morning at 4 AM, these guys started dragging all these plants out, and by 6 AM, the street looked like a botanical garden,
that's so
and
cool.
all the fairies were all over this little 1 block area. It was amazing.
That is so
It was
cool.
so
I love
wild.
that. It's interesting because I feel like you have a stronger connection with fairies and elementals than I do, and it's not a like comparison thing. That's just how
Mhm.
it works. And what I've noticed with fairies is they just seem to be hanging out like a protective energy, but also we don't have to center it around humans. Like beings
Right.
exist not just for humans, but and I feel like I'm overgeneralizing that there's different kinds of elementals and fairies. Can
Mhm.
you kind of give us a rundown? It's a very corporate
Oh,
way of
sure.
saying that, but
Yeah. Well, I can tell you what's on my land and what I feel like the fairies do. The fairies hold the vibration of the land. I have an acre and a half in western St. Louis, and the fairies that are on my land are holding a specific vibration. There are also these other beings that I see called earthlings, and they look like a shaft of light.
yeah,
They're
I just
about
started seeing those. Remember,
yeah,
I saw them
yeah.
yesterday.
They're usually at an angle.
Yeah.
The ones here are pure white. The ones I saw in Costa Rica were different shades of gray.
Hmm.
And then there are elementals that live in things like trees and rocks. And that's one of the things I taught the lady because they're clearing land. I taught her how to move the elemental from a tree that had to come down and put it in another tree. But they're there to hold the vibration.
That's
And so
cool.
yeah,
I know in the Irish and Scottish lineage, when people say fairies, there's a lot of how would you put like negativity.
right, right.
Like I
Well,
remember. Oh God,
I was just going to say, all the stuff in the storybooks, it's pretty much coming to be true in my experience. It all pretty much exists. It's just we've shut ourselves out of it.
that reminds me.
But
Jeremy had me watch Marvel,
oh yeah,
like from beginning to end, and I was like, "This is just them telling us what's going on." And he's like, "You are insane." I'm like, "No, seriously, like it's all there."
so
And
yeah,
yeah, Avatar, the cloning, but yeah, Spirit just redirected
yeah.
me back. What were you saying? Oh yeah, the storybooks. Because I remember in Outlander, there's this. I don't know how accurate this is. I'm sure it is because Outlander is pretty accurate. They talked about.
That's also in Nordic regions. A lot of the moms, when they go into a coffee shop, they'll leave their child out to sleep in the stroller in the cold,
I've
all
seen
bundled
that.
up. Yeah, yeah. There's just something about nature. That's also why sunlight is so important. There's so much that comes from sunlight. And so they obviously they want you to put sunscreen on and block it out and put sunglasses on and it keeps you unhealthy.
I saw recently. I think it was. I don't know how to say his last name because I just read it. Andrew. Is it Huberman?
I'm not sure.
He's a scientist guy, but he was talking about. And there's a couple people talking about it. Like the morning light is one of the best things you can get your eyes on. And
Hmm.
I try so hard to get out every morning, and I feel so. Jeremy even noticed the other day. He's like, "When you get your morning walks, you're just happier."
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I attribute it to the sun, even in the wintertime too.
yeah. I do sun gazing in the early morning
Oh,
and the late evening. And when you just look at it full on the sun, you'll start to see it pulsates like a it's almost like a signal. It's fascinating and it hasn't hurt my eyes at all. Yeah, it hasn't hurt my skin either.
I know being super pale, I'm actually allergic to both sunscreens, so I've had to learn, for a long time I use sunscreen and then I have my own intuitive hits. Do your own research, like we're not recommending anything, but
Yeah,
my
yeah.
intuition tells me not only are we blocking the light from going in, but all of those chemicals aren't very good. Like they're toxic. And so
Right.
I have found not using sunscreen. I'll wrap, like when I was in California or when I go to Mexico, I'll wrap myself in a scarf to
Yes.
keep from too much sun exposure because that's not good either. But the more I've left that world, the more I'm like, oh, there's so many other natural ways we could
Oh, totally.
take care of our skin in the sun.
Yeah, you can use zinc oxide. You can make your own cream out of zinc oxide. There's all kinds of stuff
Oh,
you can do.
that's cool.
Yeah,
That's so cool.
yeah, yeah.
So I actually don't think I've ever asked you this question.
Okay.
When did you, like spiritual awakening, intuition, when did you realize how intuitive you are?
It was the funniest thing. So I was before you met me, I was in fashion and retail, and I
That's
sold
right.
fashion, and I like very nice clothes. I've always liked nice stuff, and but I like a deal. I used to visualize a specific sweater, like a fine Italian wool sweater, and I would know without doubt that it was at a specific Marshalls or TJ Maxx. And sure as shit, I would go in and find it. And I never really thought too much about it. I was just
That's
like, oh,
really
this is an
neat.
interesting, because I had always like called people right when they were about to call me. And my sister was real intuitive too. And so, but then I kind of started putting things together when I started doing a lot of meditation and spending
Mhm.
lots and lots of time in deep meditation. And then I would start to know things before they happened, which
Yes.
pretty wild. Yeah.
The blessing and a curse, right? You guys
Right.
just well, you won't see it, but you should see me and Kip's text messages, like, "Are you feeling this?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then when COVID hit is when the mediumship came on. I had an acquaintance that died of COVID and didn't know he was dead. And he came to me and I was like, dude, you got a couple of choices. You're at a place where time doesn't exist and you can continue to hang where you are with your family, but you are dead, or you can go where you need to go. And then I've just had so many of those
Yeah, same.
experiences. That's one of the things that I do with my company. I work with realtors that have properties that can't sell. And 9 times out of 10, they can't sell because either somebody died there or there was a lot of trauma in the household and the energy is all still very much in the house. So I
Right.
work with them to release it. A lot of the houses that I've worked with sold right after. So that's kind of cool.
You know the can you tell the story of the one in my neighborhood? We won't give away the address, but
Yeah,
so
yeah,
just to
yeah.
give you guys I will no now only live in new build houses, although maybe I could clear something one day, but it's for this reason. My last house in South County, Missouri, I could feel someone had died in the house, got that confirmed. I know exactly where he was standing, and anytime I would do upgrades to the house, he would come up like an old man, like, "What are you doing to my house?" And I had to like talk with him and be like, "I'm taking care
Yeah.
of it." But then also on that land, the farm that used to be there, and I think there was a cave under my house. I could feel it. And then we found the spring, and that creates a lot of energy. And so, and also that's why people live certain places. I hijacked the story. We'll get back to yours.
Oh, you're fine.
But I was like, every night I was just working. I was working with other mediums to hone my mediumship because I finally realized it. And these little kids would come into the house and go, "Mommy," and I'm like, "I'm not your mom." I'm hearing myself. And then certain nights would be stronger. And I was like, these kids died of the measles. And then one day we were walking through the woods and we found the grave sites of the kids.
Oh,
And I could see like it was measles and cholera. And so then I worked with the spirits there and like helped them go to rest. So when we
yeah.
went to look for our next house, I was like, I need to find a clear space.
Yeah.
And so I can feel um there's Native Americans that lived here too. I can tell in my town where they lived, but
Yeah.
where we live was hunting grounds, so they would pass through, but it wasn't like there was nobody sitting in this specific lot, and there's a lot of crystals out here. So I was like,
Yeah.
"Okay, this is a safe place to build as long as I'm nice to the land."
Exactly.
So, the other side of the neighborhood, the highest point, can you share what you saw
Yeah, yeah,
when you
yeah, yeah.
tuned in?
So Sarah called me and said she had come across a being on her walk, and she gave me the address.
And can
And
I add
sometimes
right there real quick?
what's that?
Spirit, I wanna add here, spirits, even recent loved ones who've passed, I don't know how it works, but they can see who of us can see them.
Exactly.
So if we're somewhere and they'll be like, "Hey, hey, hey," and then like follow us until we figure it out.
Yeah.
So, okay, keep going.
Oh, I have so many stories about that too. But yeah, that's exactly right. They know if you know how to get them home. And that's kind of what they want. But so Sarah told me about this place. She gave me the address. And sometimes I have to go in the house. This one I did not have to go into the house at all. I went out super early on a Sunday morning because I didn't want to disturb the people that lived there. And I just walked near the house. And all of a sudden I was kind of like back in time. I could feel when this was a Civil War fort, this whole area, because it is the highest part and a really good vantage point. And this house had been under contract a couple of times and people had backed out of buying the house. And what I found was there was a sentry, a military guy who had been killed on duty, and he was still patrolling this perimeter. And so what the people felt when they got close to the contract was his defensive stance to protect his position. And so what I did was I relieved him of duty. Basically, I told him you're dead. I actually vouched. I had an ancestor that was a colonel in the Civil War, And so I vouched and said, you're relieved of duty. You're no longer on duty. You're actually, you've passed on. And the thing is, why this happens is these people, when they pass, they're in a place where time doesn't exist. So a moment, a blink of an eye could be 100 years to us because we're under time and they're not. And so I relieved this guy of duty, and you could tell immediately the change in the
Right.
house. I don't know
Oh,
if
there's
this.
nothing's been there since, like, I walk all the time.
Oh, cool.
He's yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know if that one sold or not. I don't know.
I feel like it did because the sign went
W
away and the people moved,
Oh, well, there you go.
but I never saw the, like,
Yeah,
sold sign. I
but it
keep
was
hearing
so
myself.
wild.
Can you hear me
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you
Okay.
sound fine. I had another one where, this woman lived in a house and, she lived there for 2.5 years and she wouldn't sleep in the master bedroom. And so I was like, "Well, what's that all about?" And so, did this one remote, but what had happened was there was an elderly couple that lived there. The woman had died. The man also died in the house, but the man could not, my fifth chakra was just all scratchy the whole time I was working on it. The wife died sooner than the husband had anticipated she was going to go, and he didn't have the opportunity to say his truth. He couldn't get the words out. So he was reliving that tender moment when she passed over and over and over again. And that's what the current owner was feeling in that master bedroom. So he was stuck in a loop and had
Yeah,
been for like a decade. And so I basically let him know that not only was his wife on the other side, but he too was on the other side, and that it was time for him to go. And then she slept in her bedroom that night. Pretty wild. Yeah.
yeah, and there's I mean, you and I could tell countless stories of this. I wanna go to energy and
So everything, as you say, everything is energy. If you break everything down that you could physically touch, it's all energy vibrating at various frequencies. Everything is. And essentially, we're all the same thing. And so
right,
that's how a frequency can affect you because you're made of the same thing. So everything stores energy, and energy cannot be created or destroyed. And so when you have, let's say you have a home, and in that home is a tremendous amount of clutter. You come home from your stress-free, your stressful job, you walk into your clutter-filled house, guess what? You're walking into more stress. And
right,
so and then let's say that you have, when you go to sit down and relax, wherever you relax in your home, there's something on the mantle that basically was gifted to you by your great aunt that you really did not like at all. But you feel this energetic obligation because of family guilt or shame to hold on to this object until Jesus comes back or whatever it is that you have to hold on to it. So that also is energy. That's energy that's been projected onto that object. Once you start to look at energy, it's in everything. It's in every object. It's in everything that you bring home. I can't even, well, I can, but those antique stores with all the booths and stuff, when I go into those, I feel the energy of all the objects. I
yes,
never touch anything when I go into those if I can help it,
right,
unless it's something that's calling me and I need and I'm gonna buy it, but I still clean it extensively.
right, and that it's that energetic piece now becomes a part of your frequency.
Right. But if you, let's say your home, so if you buy new homes, but a lot of people don't buy new homes and a lot of people rent properties that many, many, many people have lived in. And so what you'll find is no one has gone in to reset or recalibrate the energy. And so all of the energy from all of the joyful times, but also the not so joyful times, it's all still there resonant in the environment. And so when you walk into it, it's why when you walk into a room that you've never been in, it can feel heavy because,
Right,
and most people don't realize they're reading the energy. That's why you have all the hair and stuff on your body. It's like antenna. You're made to read energy.
right,
It's just we don't get taught how to do that, and we don't get
right,
taught that that's important for us to do. But, like, when you're walking, you're taking a walk and the sun has started to go down and the hairs on your back of your neck stand up. you kind of listen to it, and that's your intuition talking to you. It's the same concept. It can be good or bad. It's just, hey, let's get your attention here,
Right.
kind of a thing. Does that help?
Yeah, it does. And the other thing is, in building your intuition, it's like anything else, like dancing or cooking, right? So some
Yeah.
people are just naturally better at dancing. I am not, or cooking, but then we can all learn that skill and it helps us lead our lives. And so one side way I do this, and you know, you and I do this together, is intuiting when tornadoes are going to hit St. Louis.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And there
Yep.
was actually one time last year that there was a storm coming, and I just had a bad feeling about it. And then I felt from spirit to go pick up Evelyn from her middle school. I'm like, I'm not picking her up. Like, that's ridiculous. It's the sun's still out, whatever. The clouds are coming, but whatnot. And then I get on Facebook and I have a friend that's passed named Tyler Moore, and he gets messages to me very specifically when he needs to. So it was the first thing I saw was Tyler Moore, the weather chaser, says tornadoes are coming, take cover. And he's been dead for like a decade, but he's really good at getting me messages. And I
Wow.
was like, I'm still not doing it. And then one of my best friends who's in North Carolina that is not
Mhm.
following the weather, I hadn't told her. She goes, "Hey, is Evelyn okay? I feel like you need to pick her up." And I was like, "Okay, fine." And so I got her and got home, and by the time I got home, we went on the backyard, and the funnel was forming right over her school. Her school went into lockdown
Wow.
over
Yeah.
by LaSalle Retreat Center, and LaSalle went under the lockdowns, and it didn't touch down here, but it was what was the one that hit North City? Was it an EF3 last
Oh,
year?
really?
It, like, decimated Forest Park and
Yeah.
communities in North City. It landed, and it was like a 3 or EF3 or 4,
No, it's
and
huge.
my intuition was like, "Your daughter's in danger." And I feel like
Uh,
even for non-psychics and non-mediums and non-woo-woo people, play with that in your life where you hear something
yeah.
and just play with it and see that it's a
Yeah.
really important, easy way to start to live a more aligned lifestyle too.
Yeah, I just started acting on it. I mean,
Mhm.
what's the worst that could
Right,
happen? You could be wrong, but,
right,
man, 99% of the time, it's right. And
right.
so, I'll stop or I'll be leaving my house and I'll be like, "Oh, did I check this?" And I'll go back in and check it, and sure shit, when I get back on the road, I would have been in a wreck if I had
Yeah.
gone when I went.
Can you talk about your fireplace? Remember that you got, like, some intuitive nudge about I think it's the fireplace in your bedroom because 'cause you've been renovating.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I have 2 fireplaces in my house, and, one of them is, it's kind of an adobe looking fireplace, and it's really pretty when it's lit and, lights up the whole room, and I the night before Thanksgiving, I had a big fire in that fireplace for the first time, and it was raging, and it was beautiful. I felt like I was in Santa Fe. I was just rolling logs into it left, right, center, and went to sleep with the fireplace burning, got up in the morning, stoked the fire, got it going again, went into meditation. And I had all these big Thanksgiving plans, went into meditation, and my guides were like, "There's something wrong with the fireplace. You need to look at it now." And I was like, "What?" So I immediately
Yeah.
looked at the fireplace. What I found was whoever installed the fireplace did a very poor job. They, and I have to back up because I have an energetic contract with this house that I'm redoing. So I've asked the house to tell me what needs to be fixed. So sure enough, I look at where the fire bricks are in this fireplace, and there's huge gaps. There's no mortar on the bottom.
Mm.
There's just bricks. And then I pull one of the bricks out and it's on top of the subfloor. So the cinders were falling directly onto the subfloor.
That is so scary. I didn't know that detail.
I poured 3.5 gallons of water into that fireplace before as fast as I possibly could. And then I sat there all day monitoring to make sure that I wasn't going to burn my house down.
That's
It was
wild.
crazy. But yeah,
That is
that's
so
one of the
nuts.
ones. The other one, another one very similar. I was going to Whole Foods one Saturday morning just to
Mhm.
grab something really quick for lunch. And I've been working around the house. I had all these projects going on. Got in my car, drove out the driveway, and something said, "Go in and check the bathroom." So I stopped, I went in, I checked the bathroom, and sure shit, the outlet was on fire. The
Oh,
bathroom
I
outlet
do remember you
was
telling
on
that. Yeah.
fire, and I put the fire out, and, killed all the electricity to it. When you make a contract with a house to repair it and you ask the house to show you what needs to be fixed, get ready because it's gonna show you. And
Yeah.
sometimes you have to act very fast.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanna talk about your mid-century modern love, but before we go
Yeah.
there, there's Marie Kondo was the one that I watched her Netflix. I think it's Netflix, and she's the one that goes in and, like, organizes things, but
Oh
she's
yeah,
from
yeah.
I think she's Japanese, and she starts and it looks silly to us Westerners, but she starts by putting her hands on the ground and thanking the house and, welcome like, saying hello and introducing herself,
Hmm.
and ever since oh, I just got chills. Ever
Yeah.
since she did that, I was at first, even as an intuitive, I'm like, "That's weird." Then after a while, it was like, "No, it makes sense, and this is all energy. It's coming from living beings. It's just like trees and" and so then, especially in this house now, I always say hi to it, and
Yeah.
actually last year, when I thought a tornado was gonna hit here, and it hit the town over, and, like, we were going out of town, and I grieved. I came to the house, and I'm like, "I'm so sorry. You might not make it."
Yeah.
And I feel grateful that it didn't hit us. It destroyed a neighborhood, like, probably 3 miles from here, but
Wow.
I could feel it and knew and, like, it was the weirdest grief ever. Um, but so can you before we go into your mid-century modern, can you give some tips for people who've never had a relationship with their house or their car? I do the same thing with my
Sure.
cars.
Right. Right.
I talk shit at my Nissan Versa, and now it won't start. I'm like, "Shit." I'm like, "I love you, it's okay." But can you talk about, like, how people can start this practice? And also this is for trees, this is for,
Sure. Yeah, so the main thing is to realize that, if you own property, even if you rent property, you are the steward of that. You've agreed to become the steward of that property. And realizing that that property is made of the exact same stuff you are, it can hold and retain energy. And so what I find is going on with most people is the energy is just all wonky. So you'll have like there's a house over here in my neighborhood that's embarrassed. Every time I drive by it, the house tells me it's embarrassed because it is a beautiful mid-century modern house and the owners put this stupid country ass fence up that doesn't jive with the
Mm,
house. And every time the house is like, I'm so embarrassed. And I tell the house, you don't need to be embarrassed. It's okay. But you start to talk to your home because your home is your dwelling and it starts with gratitude. Thank you for protecting me. Thank you for the roof over my head. Thank you for the heat. Thank you for the cool. Thank you for the running water. Thank you for everything that it provides for you. And then find a place in your home that can maintain your energy, like your most favorite place to sit in that home. And then whenever you go to that place, go there with gratitude and then let your energy just flow out and relax and be and just I also teach people to just kind of sit and listen. It doesn't take very long. You just take a few breaths with no distraction or music on that doesn't have any words and you listen. And then as you have projects and things in your house that you want to do, consult the house as a partner. Don't just I'm going to do it. Or like for example, I had a client that had this really cool house, but all of the possessions and the artwork and everything, it didn't jive with the style of the house. And so
yeah.
there was just this incongruent energy. And that happens a lot when people bring and I don't mean I'm not bashing on anybody, but like if I go to my ex-wife's house
Mhm.
and I walk in, there's all this mishmash of stuff from her parents, from our time together as a married couple, and it's all thrown together and I can feel all of the energy on all of it.
Right.
And it's not been clean. And there's nothing wrong with having all those things. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying everything holds energy. And so I teach people how to reset and clear any energy that's not in accordance with their highest and greatest good that's on any
Right.
object in their home. Because once you do that, then you can decide whether you want to keep it or let it go.
Right.
But until you do, you'll have these energetic cords
Right.
attached or weird attachments to it. I don't know if I
Yeah.
answered your question though.
No, you did. And the way I like to do this podcast too is just, of course, intuitively asking questions, but I feel like the conversation takes itself where it needs to be. But I
Yeah.
think that's great. And the other thing is like adding on to what you're saying. So, like when Jeremy's pet dad passed a few years ago, and we kept one of his dressers that his dad built. And
Oh,
like you can see it on the back and it has his name and all that. And we kept it with the intention of remembering him. And
right.
so it works both ways, but you're right. Like I had to get rid of, I was so sad about it too, my guitar from my childhood because it was connected energetically to some things that I was trying to release. And I was like, but it's such a pretty guitar. I have kids. Like it was so it was a really nice guitar. It was a Les Paul. And but Spirit was like, "You cannot keep it in this house." And I was like and
Yeah.
as soon as it was gone, I felt better. And I also burned a lot of my childhood, like teenage, early journals that had all of my like "woe is me." I had to burn them because I was like,
Right.
"There's no reason to keep this." And it's holding that energy. And I was like, "I don't need to identify with that anymore." And so I think what you're saying, it's not don't keep anything. It's be intentional about what you have and what you don't.
Right. And pull your energy, anything you're going to give away, pull your energy off of
Oh,
and
I didn't
bring
think about
back
that.
whatever is. There's a thing I do. I hold the object, I look at it, I say, thank you. I love you. I appreciate you serving me. I no longer need you to serve me in this way. I love you. I
Mhm.
thank you. And I set you free. And then I
Huh.
look at the object, and if I no longer want the object, it doesn't have any strings or attachment to me anymore. And like your guitar, I can pass it on to someone else to enjoy,
Right.
right?
And that guitar is loved now. That guitar is loved and clean now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the other part, I don't know if you want to get into it on this podcast, but I teach people how to do that with all their past relationships too. Because if you have not cleared and brought your energy back from past relationships and given their energy back to them, you still have an attachment to
Right.
them. And a
Yeah, we can
lot of
go there.
what's that?
We can go there. Sorry, I
Okay.
cut you
A
off.
lot of people don't realize that.
Mhm.
And it is strong. And so I had to go back through every single relationship I ever had and sever that energetically, send their energy back to them, and take all my energy back to me. And the strangest thing that happens when you do that is invariably some of them reach out to you from out of nowhere because they don't know what happened. But what's happening is they've sensed the severed connection, but they
Yes.
don't know that that's what it is.
Right.
And so all of a sudden they can't feed off of your energy anymore,
Right.
and they sense the loss.
Right.
Yeah, it's
I That's quantum physics, right?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
and the other thing is with I haven't actually listened to it, but the telepathy tapes that have come out
Uh,
that they find that people who are have some people who have autism can communicate telepathically. Well, you and I know that we all
yeah,
can once we've
yeah.
developed that ability. And so I think of it as you're so like that's a telepathic connection. Like I think of it like, you know, those fiber optic balls that like they have the strings and then there's a light at the end.
Mm,
So that's
yeah,
what I think of anything like if we pay attention on TikTok or if we go to the grocery store or we think about a person, we have these chords that happen.
yeah.
And so the deeper the relationship, the stronger that cord is. And so I do an energetic clearing exercise of I imagine bringing all of my energy back just in
Mhm,
general. And then
yeah,
like you said, releasing anything that's not mine or doesn't serve me. And then I fill up my aura with light. This is all visualization and then sometimes I'll even, because I know so many people that can tune in, I'll cloak my energy so people can't tune in, like the
mm,
invisibility cloak, or I'll put mirrors up, or I do all these visualizations. And it sounds silly, but then people start reaching out that you just like, especially if it's an unhealthy dynamic. Like
right.
I had one woman who has a really codependent relationship with her mom, and I did a Reiki session on her, and her mom called her 9 times during the Reiki session.
Oh, wow,
Yeah. Yeah.
wow.
So it's so interesting. So can you talk about your because I feel like part of your business is your love for restoring mid-century modern
Yeah,
homes.
yeah, yeah. I've saved 2 mid-century modern homes from the bulldozer, and I design mid-century modern furniture, and I have Amish build it. I love that. I just love the simplicity of the design, and these homes are completely misunderstood in the Missouri area that I live.
Yes.
And so they wanted to the first home I did, I was going through divorce and it was a weekend. I was living in the basement of a house that I had built in Kirkwood. And I went to this estate sale. And the minute I walked in the door, I felt like I was in my home. And I thought that is the strangest feeling. I looked around, there wasn't anything I wanted to buy. But I was in that neighborhood again the next day, the Sunday, and I walked in and I felt the exact same thing. Like I had just walked through my front door. It was, and as we talked before, time doesn't exist. So what I didn't
Right.
know then was I was walking through the front door of my home because
Yeah.
I basically made a phone call the following Monday. And by Thursday of that week, I owned that house. And that was my first I made a contract with the house. I told the house I mean, aside from the signing and buying, I told the house that I would be its caretaker. I would restore it to the extent that I could, but that it had to help me show me what needed to be restored and all that kind of stuff. And so that was the first one. This one I'm in Town and Country is the second one, and it was even more unique because I wasn't really looking for a house. I was ready to not live in an apartment anymore. But this house found me. I didn't find it. I didn't
Mhm.
even set foot in the house until after I owned it. I did it all
That's amazing.
energetically, and it's been a lot of hard work. It's going on 3 years, but it's just been so incredibly rewarding, and there's not a day that goes by someone in the neighborhood doesn't say, "Oh my gosh, we're so happy that you saved this house," or "This house is looking so good." And and I've told you these stories many times, but, like, I'll have parties here, and the house, you can feel it. It's just ecstatic. This house
Yeah.
built to have a party,
Right.
or I'll play certain music from the this house was built in 1964, and I'll play music from that era, and the house you can just feel the vibe of the house. It's
Yeah.
very it feels loved and cared for, and that's what I reassured the house that I was here to do. I will tell you one story though, when when I moved here and I have an acre and a half, and half of it was covered with honeysuckle. You
Mm.
you couldn't even walk through it, but if you did manage to get through it, in the very center was a perfect ring clearing, and that's the fairy ring, which you know.
Mhm.
But I had told my landscaping guy that eventually I wanted to clear out all this honeysuckle, which I did, right? But I had been gone out of town and I didn't have an opportunity to tell the fairies that that's what my plan was. And while I was out of town, he did it. And the fairies were so
Yeah.
angry. It
Yeah.
was not fun. They were
Yeah.
livid. And so I had to mend my fences with them.
Just
But
like
look
my
what
bushes. I called you, I'm like, "What do I do?" I felt because
yeah,
they left, and I really like they're right outside of my window, and I see them every day, and I was like, "Where" it's like losing a pet. Like,
yeah,
I was like, I don't own any of my pets too,
right,
but
right, right.
yeah, and that's so funny. That's
Yeah.
so interesting.
Yeah, they're all back now, they're happy. They live in there's
Good.
33 persimmon trees out there that they like.
I
So,
love that.
but everybody's good. I built a monument to them. I don't know if you ever see those stones stacked. They're called
Yeah.
cairns.
That's right.
So I built a 7-stone cairn for him.
Oh, I love
The reason
that.
I think 7 is it goes back 7 generations. Each stone
Oh, that's
represents a
cool.
generation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when they broke ground on the lot that we're on now, I put a little fairy house in the back and it
Uh-huh.
disappeared. Like I don't think anybody took it. It just I don't know if it got buried or
Oh, wow.
but yeah, it was pretty wild. I
Maybe
have a
so.
friend in Phoenix that's a medium and she's a shamanic practitioner and she bought this or she's renting this one house. It had been vacant for a long time. And when she moved in, I just felt the like heaviness of it. And it was really
Mm,
hard for her to move in, but she knew it was her job to restore and
yeah.
take care of the house. And she's been taking care of it and loving it. And the hum of the energy of how happy that house is like palpable even on Zoom. So
Wow.
yeah, it's pretty
Yeah.
cool. That's
It's
awesome.
just stuff that people don't even they're so busy they don't even think about it.
Right.
And yet when you think about it, it can enrich your life so much. I mean, everybody that comes into my house is like, "Oh my gosh, I don't wanna leave." And I'm like, "Well,
Hmm.
you have to leave," but
Goodbye. That's hilarious.
but it's just very relaxing, it's very high
Yeah.
vibrational, and it's very unlike a lot of spaces
Right.
in the world.
Right. So there's a few other things that you do, right? So you can tune in, and honestly, you don't even need a picture, but you can
Right.
tune in and help people, like either if it's like what's off here, or
Mhm.
like what does my living room want? What should I do
Yeah.
here? So that is another thing that you do in person and remote. Is
Yep.
that right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or I'll help people with objects that a lot of people need to clean up, but they just
Hmm.
don't know where to start. They're overwhelmed. They have energetic attachment to all of it. And so I help them recognize that. I help them sort through that and you can't see clearly till you cut the energetic cords to all the
Right.
stuff.
Right.
And once you've done that, then you're free to make a decision about something without guilt or shame or remorse or
Right.
anything like that. And you really can't get rid of anything until you do that.
Right.
But like it's even with yeah, I've even helped people with clothing because they had held on to clothing that was a certain maintained a certain energy of who they were when they wore that clothing. They're no longer that person, but there's something about the clothing that's holding them to it. And this one guy I worked with, he had a suit that he didn't ever want to throw away because he wore it to his dad's funeral.
Hmm.
And yet he felt like he needed to get rid of it. And so I'm like, well, let's analyze let's go through all the motions that you were feeling when you last had that suit on. And let's talk about that and let's clear it. And then maybe at the end of it, you'll be able to decide whether you want to keep or let go of the suit. He doesn't have a suit anymore. It was the emotion.
Ah,
It was the attachment to his dad.
yeah.
And yeah. And you can still own and
That's
keep all of that.
right. That's like my guitar. It wasn't about the guitar.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forget who gave it to me, so if this is you listening, I'm sorry. It's not you. I had a rosary from Jerusalem that was given to me.
Uh,
And I feel so bad that I don't remember where it came from. But over time, there was something just really off about it. And I couldn't figure out what it was, but there was a bad intention in it. And actually, one of my best friends she's a normie, she knows that she's a normie. Like, she doesn't, that's what I call people that aren't psychics or mediums. But her son is very intuitive. So when he comes over, he's like 10. He's not learned, like, she hasn't taught him about crystals or anything. I
uh,
just give him a crystal and I have him tell me what it feels like, and he's spot on every time. It's so
well,
fun and so cool, and, like, he talks more now, and, like, it's all he's that makes him sound he was, like, really shy before, but I protected the energy, but I had him hold the rosary, and they're a Christian family, so he wouldn't have a negative association, and I made my energy neutral, and he goes, "This has to leave your house right away." So we
uh,
buried it in a new place and, like, gave it a new home.
yeah.
But it's just so interesting when you really start going down these rabbit holes, the implications for our life. I've also seen, because not every intuitive is positively intended, or you
Right.
really have to check who you're working with. There's someone I know that will give people gifts so that they can remote view or see into their homes.
Oh, totally.
And
Yep.
or I knew one person that gave someone else a crystal during an ayahuasca ceremony, and it broke the sacred you know how ayahuasca is so protected?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
person was able to get in there.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so, there's all these things so be careful if you have things where you're like, if you just don't like it, or somebody has bad intentions towards you and they give you something, and it's not always intentional too, like, negative thoughts can impact us, like, if people are
Right.
so it's really just energetic self-care is so important, I think, for living a grounded and peaceful lifestyle. I kinda went different
Right.
subjects there, but what are your thoughts on that?
Well, my main thing is, and I don't think any of it's frightening, and I don't think a lot of it is
Mhm,
malicious, but some of it is malicious. And I don't like to be manipulated in
mhm,
any way, shape, or form because I'm a sovereign being.
yes,
But there are things that are energetically imposing on my sovereignty or trying to claim my sovereignty. And that's what I had to come to realize. So I've cleared everything. I mean, I have knickknacks on these shelves back here. I've
mhm,
cleared everything in my home.
yeah,
So my home is in alignment with my sovereignty.
mhm,
And that's why when I bring anything into my home, I leave it outside and I use Palo Santo or white sage
mhm,
and I smudge it before it ever comes in. But I uh, I do think it happens, and I don't mean to alarm anybody, but there are people that, especially in relationships, that's kind of where the term vampire comes from. They feed
mhm,
off your energy. And the ways that they can do that are through pictures and things and old gifts, and it can happen.
And
I
sometimes it's not even intentional or conscious. There are
No,
people that do it intentionally
right, right, right.
and or yeah, I'm not gonna tell I was gonna tell a story, but I'm not gonna tell that story. Leave that one there. That's a behind the scenes story.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's so right. What do you feel like by the way, if you need help with learning how to clear or do any of
Oh,
this stuff, reach out to Kip. That's like you're here we have a little community here in St. Louis of purpose-driven intuitives that's really in whatever form. Mine is well, it's a bunch of ways, but I even see podcasting as light work because we're sharing really interesting, cool things. But even this, like I'm hoping somebody gets out of this, like, oh, I should take care of my energy in my house and really ground my energy. I want
yeah,
to add for anybody that this does freak out. If you think about darkness, the minute you put light in it, the dark can't exist. Only shadows, only things that scare us. And so the biggest lesson I've learned that's grounded my energy, especially as a medium that can see many things that I'll probably never talk about publicly,
sure.
but there's a lot out there. And that's where connecting to light energy, if you believe in God, connecting to God, like that's all the saging and all of that helps with the energetics. But as far as safety, when you have light energy surrounding you, which is to me, it's God,
Yep.
then you're protected. So you don't have to like you can do things to support that, but that's how you stay protected.
Yeah, yeah. I like to think. I mean, I don't go too far down the really deep, dark energy realm, but I
Yeah.
know it's there, and I've had experiences with it. But I've not been afraid. I've been protected
Hmm.
by it. But when it just, I
Right.
like to think of it as, you go into a grocery store and
Hmm.
you're in line, and you're in line, and there's a lady in front of you, and she's incredibly happy, and there's an asshole behind you, and he's in a hurry, and nobody's moving fast enough.
Right.
That's the way energy is.
Right.
That's exactly the way energy is. And my goal is not to be affected by the guy behind me that's in a hurry. It's more to help raise and let's have more of the happy lady energy, right?
Right. Right.
Because and that's connected with the light, in my opinion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all connected. And I feel like we could talk about this. Maybe I'll have to have you back.
Okay.
We'll do a series. What do you think? So, what one thing I'm being guided to ask you is what are some common tools that people can utilize in their home? Meaning, I don't know the right word there. Like, I'm thinking like things to help raise the vibration. The one that
Oh,
comes to mind is plants, obviously.
yeah.
But then, can you explain some other things that people can do to immediately raise the vibration of their house?
Yeah, the quickest thing you can do is to if you have Spotify or Pandora or even YouTube, but I don't like YouTube because it has commercials. Find a
Yes.
playlist that has 528 hertz and just play that music. Even when you're gone, play that music in your house. I use that when I do my energy work with homes. I'll even before I walk into the home, I'll have someone open the front door and open the back, and I'll play a 528 hertz playlist or just go to a online tone generator. There's plenty of them, they're
That's cool.
free, and dial in 528 hertz and play it. Even you can play it in the whole house, or if you have a specific room that you don't, like the vibe of the energy in, 528 hertz is the frequency of love and restoration. I had my first house, I didn't wanna invest in a burglar alarm, and this 528 hertz, I had flown from San Francisco to New York with this couple, and they were telling me about this sound study that when the Exxon Valdez spilled in the Gulf of Mexico, there was a group from a school in Washington that went down and they broadcast 500 in a 1 mile radius, and it reduced the particulate contamination of the oil spill to drinking water, basically.
Wow.
But you don't hear anything about it. So
Yeah.
it's a healing frequency. So I had this house, I didn't have the money to put a burglar alarm in, so I put speakers all around the outside of my house and played 528 hertz music over
That's
and
cool.
over and over, and I would wake up and I felt like Doctor Doolittle. I would see turkeys and deer, and this is in Frontenac, so I would see turkeys and deer and rabbits and fox, and
It's
then
wild.
people would like the UPS man, he was like, "I just love to come to your house. This is my favorite house on the neighborhood on my route." And it's all because the vibration was uplifted. So 528 hertz. That's my
Okay.
number one go to. If you can't do anything but that, do that. And just play it on an old phone. You don't have to buy a funky sound system. Just take your old phone, connect it to Wi-Fi, find a 528 hertz playlist and play it. The other thing is find an incense that resonates with you. There's a lot of high vibrational incense. I don't have the package, but I could share it with Sarah and you can put it maybe in the notes. Ura Shaka is the brand I like. And then I have lots of crystals in my house. And I use
Yeah.
4096 is the tuning fork I use to reset the energy in the crystals. And then I make sure the energy that goes into them is aligned with my highest and greatest good, the highest,
Mm,
greatest good of the home. And then I go from there. And then the number one thing every single week, I buy fresh flowers.
I saw it in my head. Yep.
And if yeah, I'm not saying you have to buy flowers, but do something that makes you happy, that makes your home feel happy. And that's a splurge for me. I love flowers. I love the color of flowers, and I just love how it feels to walk in and see them. So
Mhm.
those
I
are some.
love that. You know what's interesting too is so for a long time I had this nudge and I think it's so the way my house speaks to me, I don't it's not like I hear it. I get a desire to do something. So it's not
Yeah,
even like, oh spirit. It's so I had this craving to go to Michael's and buy like all these fake flowers. And I love real flowers. I'm a gardener and we buy flowers all the time. But I was like, why? And I did. I just followed it. I spent like I was like 3 or $400 on fake flowers. I was like, this is
yeah.
ridiculous. I'm a very frugal person, and I was like, "This is so dumb." But I put them out, and then every season, I would change, like, every month, I, like, take one out, and I put a new one in, and, like,
Oh, cool.
now they're in places, and I realized that the house really needed it. So even
Yeah,
though it's fake, it's plastic stuff, there's things that's where listening to your intuition can be helpful, like,
yeah.
sometimes I use sage, sometimes I boil lavender, sometimes I do other things, but the other thing to mention is what you said earlier of opening your house, opening your windows and doors. That's a very Irish, Celtic, Druid
Yeah.
tradition. I'm sure it's in other cultures too, but that clears the energy as well. And I can feel it when people haven't done that because all of your emotions just stay in the space.
Right. Right. Yeah. One of the quickest ways to change the vibration of your house is clean your windows and then
Mhm.
open.
Yep. And the other thing I'll do sometimes is either boil or steam shower Epsom salt, and the
Mhm.
ions get into the air, just like a salt ion
Yeah.
kind of thing. So there's lots of ways
Yeah.
to play with this. And that's it. Like play with it and see if it feels better. Oh, and the other one is gratitude. Just that I connect every morning to God and just say thank you. And it
Yeah.
changes the house. Like it just
Oh, yeah.
changes.
Yeah.
Oh, and sunlight, getting sunlight, like moving furniture around, even if you put it back, all of these things can help
And if
balance your
anybody's
house.
wanting to know kind of how to raise their own personal vibration really fast, there's three things I do all the time. One, I take a bath with Epsom salt. Two,
Hmm.
I put on music that I like and I move my body. And three, if you've ever seen a dog come out of a body of water, they completely shake their body. And I do that. That is probably the quickest energetic reset, especially if you have, like, I had an altercation with someone at a gas station just recently where the guy was just yelling at me for no reason whatsoever. And it was clearly he was projecting his junk onto me. But when I got home, I just completely did a full body shake for as long as I felt like I needed to. And it completely resets your central nervous system.
That's so cool. Side
Yeah.
note, that is something if you start working on your frequency and your energy, sometimes angry people project it onto you. So it can be a whole thing to learn how to manage. That's why having mentors can be helpful. But you know what's interesting is we see that intuitively. One of my colleagues, she's a myofascial practitioner, and she speaks to the science of shaking, dancing, ions from salt, and regulating our nervous system. So
Yeah.
that's, I think, the coolest thing is we're living in an age, especially for those of us who've always been the weirdos or the not
Yeah.
normal people, the psychics and mediums, we're watching in real time science meet what we see every day. And it is the
Yeah.
coolest freaking thing.
I
Did you
know.
hear that there were goggles, night vision goggles, that the military had to stop using because it was picking up on spirits?
Yeah.
Isn't
Yeah,
that
there's a
crazy?
camera. There's a camera there's a camera that you can still buy it in Japan, but you can't buy it in the US because the
Yeah.
lens is infrared and it'll pick up spirits.
Yeah. Oh, there's so much we could do. We won't today, but
Okay.
we could do a whole episode on, we'll probably get offed for this, of why there's been so much, all of these things, like they've literally been removed from the Bible.
Right.
Some of them are still in there.
Yeah.
Intuition and healing and prophetic eye. It is biblical. Not that this
Yeah.
isn't, I keep talking about the Bible in here. This isn't a religious channel,
Yeah.
but just to say it's in all religious texts, but there's a deliberate reason that this kind of stuff has been hidden from us. And like you said, it goes with control. But
Mhm.
yeah, that's a whole
Yeah.
different, we'll see if we get bold enough to do that one. I might get
Yeah.
kicked off of Spotify.
Can I tell you a quick little story?
Yeah.
So I was going out to this land to work with this lady, and she was very she's kind of nervous, right? Because this weird stuff was going on with these Osage Indians and stuff, and she was just trying to prepare the way and everything. And she goes, "I want to let you know that my brother is very religious, and he's very protective of me, and he's just concerned about what you might be doing." And I was like, "Okay." And they gave me 3 Bible verses for the brother to talk about. And one was Lazarus. When Lazarus had been dead in the tomb for 3 days and Jesus talks to him, they said, "Ask the brother where he was when he was talking to him, because he wasn't in his body. And
Hmm.
then let him know that that's the same thing you're doing here." But the funniest thing was I got there and I saw him. He came down on the driveway right when I drove on the property. And just a really handsome, nice looking guy, muscular. And the first thing he noticed was this Knights
Oh, yeah, your
Temple
tattoo.
cross on my hand. And I believe quite firmly that I've been a Knights Templar in a prior life. And the moment I saw him, I knew for a fact that he had been too. And that's the first thing that he recognized. That's what basically brought down the walls of his defensiveness against
Mhm.
my presence there. It was so beautiful. It's very
Oh,
cool.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, and I feel like too, that's part of what was pulled out is a lot of the mediumship
Yeah.
stuff in,
Oh,
yeah.
oh, yeah, for sure. And the reincarnation stuff.
Yeah. What were the other two Bible verses?
The second one was when Jesus encountered the man with the unclean spirit, and the spirits asked to go into the herd of swine, and that he allowed it. And then they immediately ran into the lake or the
Hmm.
body of water. And then I can't remember what the third one was. There were 3 specifics, but I'm drawing a blank on the third.
Yeah. I know we're wrapping up soon, but when
Yeah,
you say they, again, these are things that are normal to, I
oh,
know there's intuitives listening,
sure.
and then I know there's plenty of non-intuitives. Who is they for you?
They are my spirit guides. I have some very, funny, sarcastic
Yours
spirit.
are so sarcastic, yes. They make fun of you so much in
They're
love.
incredibly sarcastic, but
Yeah,
they do it with love, and I talk to them constantly. Not always out loud, but I live alone, so I can talk to myself out loud.
that's hilarious.
I talk to them all the time. They have taught me an incredible amount of stuff.
Yeah.
And what I feel like who I feel like they are, or, if I go when I leave the skin suit and go back to my natural state, those spirit guides are part of my soul family, as are
Mhm.
all of the elementals and all of the fairies and all the other stuff on my land. It's all part of the same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, I love that. And guides, unlike, so what people need to know is if you have loved ones that are passed or ancestors that are passed, that there can be, they're not as high frequency as for per
Right.
se. Spirit guides are given to us for a specific reason. They're very wise. We still need to make our own decisions, right? Like I think
True.
people think if I am psychic and I can channel, that I used to do this, that spirit always had the answer, but then I found spirit was just mirroring to me what I thought would need to be true. But we're still sovereign beings that get to make decisions in this lifetime.
Right.
But one time I was doing ancestral work and I forgot to say well and wise ancestors, and all of
Oh,
these Irish ancestors came out telling me that I'm not working hard enough, and I started crying, and it was like this whole thing. And then
sorry.
there's spirit is Holy Spirit, and then there's like Christ consciousness, and then some people that say that they channel creator or
Mhm.
that they are. And so, and then we have the angels and archangels. These are all just different frequencies that we can work with
Yeah,
to gather more information and insight for us to make a decision.
exactly. That's not way to put
So
it.
that's what, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's for anybody that doesn't know. So
Cool.
Yes, well, let's do reincarnation next time. I don't know
Okay.
if we'll get
That's
a few more episodes of other intuitives, and I can't wait to talk about that too. It's so fun. And I bet you he recognized you too, that guy, even though he probably wasn't aware of it.
he wasn't aware, but he knew. I mean, I
Mhm.
hugged the guy when I left.
Oh, I love that.
It's pretty beautiful.
And let's also talk about empowered masculine next time. Like, I'll write these
Oh,
down.
sure. Yeah, yeah,
That would be
yeah.
really fun. So, well,
Yeah.
thank you for coming
Alright. Oh,
to
you're so welcome. Thank you for having me.
cool people doing cool things. And everybody, I will put all of Kip's details in the show notes so that you can connect. Kip's
Yeah.
awesome
Feel free to reach out.
and awesome. See you
Thanks
later.
so much, Sarah. Bye.